Hello everybody! Today we're doing a new sort of YouTube video. We're going to do an unscripted movie review together of something we both saw recently.
Yeah, we both watched the Lord of the Rings movies and the Hobbit movies, sort of. We watched the extended editions of all three Lord of the Rings movies and the fan cut of The Hobbit.
I don't really like The Hobbit, to be honest.
Me neither.
And so I thought it would be fun to watch a fan edit, because I know there's a whole lot of them out there. The one we chose is called J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit December 2015 Final. And yeah, it was on a website called Maple Films. That's apparently considered like one of the best ones. So that's the one we watched. It's about a little over 4 hours. But yeah, for Lord of the Rings, I had never seen the extended cuts. I think maybe I saw the extended cut of Return of the King when I first watched the trilogy, like 10 years ago, but it's been a while. It was kind of new for me, totally new for you, and of course, a fan edit is totally new for me. I had only seen the theatrical cuts of the 3 Hobbit movies. I saw them in theaters, actually.
Oh, whoa.
All 3 of them.
Super cool.
Alright, let's start with Fellowship of the Rings. I have written down that it was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, and it won 4, which are cinematography, makeup, score, and visual effects. What did you think of the visual effects of the first movie?
I thought that the visual effects were very visually effective. I'm very easy to please when it comes to visual effects, and I can kind of accept anything as reality because this is very fantasy-based, so I'm not really trying to compare it to something that would look realistic or something I've seen before.
Yeah, even if it looks like a little cartoony, it's stylized in like a way that works in the universe.
Yeah, and I've never seen a water horse stampede in real life.
That held up really good. There's some stuff that I don't know if it holds up quite as well, like the Balrog that kills Gandalf. I thought some of those effects looked pretty bad when they're like running in the mines, but you know, it's like 25 years old. It's fine.
I was still feeling all the emotions they wanted me to feel. I was still pretty worried, even though it made me look kind of video gamey.
Do you think this one held up in terms of visual effects less than the other 2, or?
I think maybe less than the other 2, but only just because of time. And technology probably was a limitation.
I mean, it's interesting because I kind of felt like there were some improvements made with each one, and like them trying almost more ambitious things. But these movies were all like shot at the same time, and they all came out within like a year of each other. So it's kind of surprising to me. I feel like there shouldn't be that feeling. Maybe they had more money because of like the successes of the earlier ones. I don't know how that worked. So in terms of other things it won makeup, score, and cinematography. I won't focus too much on cinematography or makeup because I don't really have that much to say other than it's really good. But in terms of score, I feel like that's like my favorite thing about this movie. I think the score is so good.
What I really like about the score is each place and sometimes significant object or person has a specific theme so distinct that later in the movies when you hear the theme, but that specific person, place, or thing is not on screen, you can kind of read the thoughts of the characters subliminally and try to figure out what they're thinking about based on the song that's playing over their pensive thought process or what they're talking about. Yeah. Like the Shire theme, if they're thinking about the Shire or talking about it, they put that on even if they're not there. Yeah. And I think that's really effective and cool.
Yeah, I think the use of different themes is so effective. It's the one aspect that like I'm not critical of in the slightest. Like there's nothing bad I could say about the score. It's like perfect for these movies.
Yeah, I think something about the score that I really love is it's very memorable and it doesn't fall into the pitfalls that sometimes action sequences can get into where they just have like a really basic like in the background that's kind of like scary and it's not really that memorable. Even the really scary moments in this were memorable and I appreciate that. And I feel it's been a while since we've had like a franchise film that has its own music created for it that holds a candle to this.
That's been a real bummer in the past like 10 or 15 years.
But I did think Brutalist had some really good music.
That's true. Challengers had really good music.
Maybe I take it back.
No, I think in big like blockbusters, like there hasn't been a Marvel movie that's had a really great like score. I just like that like I can think of a location or character in these movies like the Shire, or where like the orcs are being birthed, or like the prologue, and I just like immediately think of the music. It's like the first thing that comes to mind. It's like you said, it's very memorable. Like I immediately can think of those melodies just by thinking about those like moments in the film.
And there's kind of like a ring corruption song that plays every time someone's gonna be corrupted
Yeah.
with the ring. It's like
Yeah,
then it's
see
like,
how memorable
it's
it
the
is?
ring.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh no, someone's gonna make a corrupt decision with this magical ring.
Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands of a second darkness. He is seeking it. Seeking it all. His thought is bent on it.
This is my favorite of the three, I'll just say right off the bat. I don't, like, they're all great, and I think the experience as a whole is, like, one unified thing. They're really consistent in quality, but personally, this has always been the one I've, like, enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the special features that are added to this one.
Oh, yeah.
Because, again, it's my first time. I've seen the theatrical cuts probably, like, 4 or 5 times, and, yeah, I feel like I had a way more appreciation for the story as a whole. I think it adds a lot of context watching the extended cuts, and since I'm like a big fan of it, I don't know why I had never watched them before. It's better.
I think a lot of the scenes that you specifically told me were added
Yeah.
were really important contextual scenes
Yeah.
that really deepened my understanding of the world and the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, wow, if those weren't in here, I don't think I would like this as much.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they went ahead and filmed those and wrote those and got those all done, because those are actually really awesome contextual scenes, and I think there's a lot missing without those.
A lot of it you wouldn't be able to tell what's special edition or what's extended cut and what's theatrical cut, and I feel like that shows off how good it is, and that like it kind of works just as well. We have more in the Shire at the beginning of the movie. Sam and Frodo see the trolls that Bilbo turned to stone in the Hobbit movies. Gandalf discussing the mithril-like armor that Bilbo gives to Frodo.
Mm-hmm.
I really like, there's a line in the movie that I'd never heard because I hadn't seen the extended cuts before.
I never told him, but its worth was greater than the value of the Shire.
And I feel like that was like a fun way of kind of getting it kind of in the characters' heads, like, oh, this adventure is like way bigger than me. Like this world of like going out and doing these like quests is so much bigger than the Shire, and that's like their whole world before then. Like Sam leaving is like, this is the furthest I've ever been from home, and it's like a couple acres away from his front door. The extended cuts, I was just really pleasantly surprised by all of it. I felt like it was very fitting and just more good stuff. The next scene that is added is some gifts from the elves.
That's important planting and payoff that they didn't include in, I guess, the theatrical cut, but it added a lot for me.
Yeah, I don't think they show like Sam using the rope in Two Towers in the theatrical cut, but yeah, it is like a little added thing. I like the scene. I think it's funny how Sam is like, what the fuck is this rope? Like, can I have like a cool weapon or something? Like everybody else has these like awesome, like, this is this legendary sword, and she's like, and here's some rope.
Have you run out of those nice shiny daggers?
And then the last scenes that are added are just like a little more Boromir, a little more dialogue. I think he says more at like the Council of Elrond, and some more stuff at the end. I think in general the extended cuts kind of flesh out his character more, give him more depth and less of like a one-dimensional sort of, he's a representation of the greed of man, he wants to take the ring. It's like you very much understand his reasoning with the extended cuts. I feel like he becomes one of the best characters. One thing I'll just add as an assessment for all of these movies, I'll kind of like assess whether I think the extended or theatrical cut was better, how they differ in terms of quality or whatever. And I think for Fellowship of the Rings, they're both just really solid. Like, you can't go wrong. There's nothing bad in the extended cut. There's nothing bad in the theatrical cut that doesn't make sense without the extended cut. You can't go wrong. It's a perfect movie either way. Personally, like I said, like I love the fact that it's all the like characters haven't split off. It's just one journey altogether. And I think there's something like simplistic in a fun way about that, and very like intriguing and exciting for me. I love like Frodo and Sam. I think they're like the most interesting part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, they're the ones I'm most connected to, I guess.
There's one thing I think you should mention that you talked about to me.
J.R.R. Tolkien based Sam off of, I think, a buddy of his from World War I that he kind of wanted to commemorate as a war hero, I guess.
I think the way Sam is written gives the impression to me that he is kind of like a memory because of how positively he's written. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
I wouldn't want Sam any other way. I love him. He's so great.
He's like a dog.
Great. He's like a dog?
Yeah, like when Frodo's in the boat and he's like, I gotta go with you, and then he almost drowns because he can't swim, but he doesn't.
So cute.
Yeah,
they love each other.
Yeah, I just think it's so sweet. Like, it kind of reminds me of a dog. And like a dog, he's also kind of protective of Frodo, but not in like a super violent way.
Oh, Mr. Frodo.
Yeah. He like packs him lunch. It's just so sweet. He brings like salt or something, and he's like, we're gonna use my salt. Or like he has some kind of like
I forgot
spice.
about that. That was funny.
Yeah. I think it's really funny when they get to the mine and they let the horse loose, and they're just like, you know where to go.
Don't worry, Sam. He knows the way home.
That was funny. I forgot about that.
Does he know where to go? He's a horse.
I have no idea. Does he come back in Two Towers or something?
I think he does. And they're like,
We'll find
he
out.
found his way home. And I'm just like, how did he find his way home? Like, he's a freaking horse.
Yeah.
Like, and it's also just like the horse has experienced a lot of trauma, and probably on the way back will experience a lot of trauma. Like, won't he lose his way? Like, they're just like, oh yeah, he knows where he's going. And I'm like, wow, they have so much directional faith in this horse.
I didn't really mention this when we were talking about visual effects, but one thing that is like so cool about them, like we were talking about CGI, whether it held up or not, but also like all the forced perspective stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of really great practical stuff that had a lot of pre-production, a lot of planning that's really effective in this, and so cool to watch behind the scenes stuff for. So that probably contributed to them getting the award, I think. I just want to throw down a few more things about this movie. There's just so many memorable moments. Like the image of them under the roots of the tree hiding, the four hobbits, so ingrained in my mind. The moment where Bilbo jump scares Frodo, like his face turns into Gollum for a second because he's trying to take the ring.
Scary.
Yeah, that's ingrained in my mind.
Didn't like that.
The statues that are putting their hands out that are like stop, that's like an image that's just stuck in my head. Just like the opening of Frodo sitting at the tree. So many moments that are just very, very near and dear to me.
I'm still thinking about that horse and how that horse navigated itself home.
I guess the last thing I'll mention before we move on to Two Towers is, since we watched these movies in 2 parts, or 6 parts, the entire trilogy, I was kind of interested in like how well they would end in terms of like, is it a good cliffhanger? Is it an appropriate ending? And this one definitely has the most appropriate ending. It's just like the fellowship forms, and it's like to be continued in part 2, and it feels like it works as like a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I really felt that way for the other 2. But anyways, what did you think of Two Towers?
Two Towers.
Yeah.
I actually really like the Gollum stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And something interesting about Gollum is my original perception of him when they laid him out in the first movie was that he was just this little creature that knew nothing but obsess and knew nothing but scurry in cave and only wanted to have shiny objects. Like, I thought it was sort of an animalistic thing, and he was always like that. And then when I learned that he used to be a guy, I got more freaked out. I mean, because
you kind of realize that in the first movie. Gandalf tells Frodo when they go to the mines.
Smeagol's life is a sad story. Smeagol, he was once called, before the ring found him.
And then you see the scene in the third movie. So I don't know why you're mentioning this in the second movie, Swan.
Okay, you just told me that, though. And Gandalf tells everyone in the second movie that he used to be a hobbit.
No, he does not.
In the first movie, he says that.
Yes.
So it's fair game for the second movie discussion.
Whatever.
I just think that if he used to be a guy...
Yes.
It's a little bit creepier to think that he descended into madness and became this little creature.
Absolutely.
And I feel a little bit less bad because as a guy, he was already pretty evil.
Yeah, that's what makes it tragic.
But he just doesn't change, so I guess that is a tragedy arc because he doesn't change and then it's too late.
Spoilers.
You know he's not going to change. You know what's interesting in this movie? If someone in this movie is beautiful, you know that they're a good person, and they're going to have a good arc, and they're at least going to have like a like cool, interesting, like hot redemption.
But if they have bad teeth and pale skin and greasy hair.
And like, I just feel like that's crazy. Because I don't think that people who don't fit these fantasy beauty standards should automatically be pigeonholed into this life of evil. But every time I see someone on screen who doesn't look like a model, then I think, oh, well, this guy's gonna have some like really creepy name and he's gonna be really evil.
Dwarves look attractive. What are you talking about?
But like they're styled to look kind of like fatherly, so like you don't really think that they're like evil because they're not like, you know what I think it is? I think it is
evil looking characters are evil.
But it's not evil looking. I think if any character just has goth related traits, they make them evil, and I think that's ridiculous because all the goth people I met are really nice.
In real life?
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, you don't know the really nice goth people that I know.
If you're goth, I think you're evil.
That's not true.
I think you should be.
Hey, wait! Don't put that in the video.
Okay.
Don't put that in the video. If you put me saying this in the video, I'm gonna be mad.
I gotta read the Oscar stuff. It got 6 nominations, so this one had the least, and it had 2 wins for sound editing and visual effects. This one is especially impressive to me in terms of CGI stuff, because, like, the armies being as big as they are, and, like, every, you know, wherever you look on the frame, every, like, soldier is doing a unique thing. I know they had to do a bunch of programming to make that work and look good, and this was, like, the first movie to do that really well, have, like, millions of extras that are kind of CGI'd in and have it look good, and also having a completely CGI character with Gollum work effectively with the other characters. That was totally new for this one. I guess they gained the confidence to do it with this one, and the way he like interacts with the environment, like there's a scene where he's going down like a river, and like the water is splashing, and it just looks great. Like they did such a good job. In terms of added scenes, we have more stuff with the Ents, which I think was a little unnecessary, but I do like the Ents.
I actually disagree. I think it was completely necessary, and I know you're going to talk about showing them a lot in battle.
Well, they show them a lot in between the battle, like deciding whether they're going to join the cause or not, and I feel like a lot of it, there's very little progress, which is kind of the joke, but I think the Helm's Deep, like, battle sequence is so great that, I didn't want the pacing to be interrupted. That doesn't happen in the theatrical cut, so it was kind of annoying me. Also, after the battle, like, there's, like, a scene where Merry and Pippin, like, raid Saruman's, like, food cabinet. I didn't think that was a super necessary addition. But I also think this movie has some of the most necessary additions. The scene where the King of Rohan, or Rohamir, I feel like they call both of those things. I don't know which is right. I'll put right here the correct answer of what that kingdom is called. I'll call it Rohan for now. I think that's what they use mostly. But they have a great scene in the extended cut where the king has that moment.
No parent should have to bury their child.
That was surprisingly dark deep and dramatic, and only in the extended cut for some reason. Faramir and Boromir, there's like a flashback with them and their father before he's like... In the theatrical cuts, you only see the father as like mourning the death of Boromir, and I really like the scene they added between the three of them. There's a good speech from Faramir that ends the first half of this movie where he first meets Sam and Frodo and kind of like takes them, and he has this little like speech about the brainwashing of the soldiers in Mordor. There's a scene where Aragorn spits out Eowyn's soup. We should talk about the love triangle.
I actually thought it was really funny because I think a lot of time love triangles in fantasy give the loser of the love triangle too much credence. But I think, and what I mean by that is I consume a lot of romance-based media, and I think a lot of time with love triangles, the third person actually stands a chance, which
there's like a will there won't be thing going
yes,
on.
And you don't know which one they're gonna pick, and it's a whole thing.
In this movie, there's no question.
In this movie, there's no question. He's already very committed to his elf girlfriend
Yeah.
who literally gave up immortality for him. And so there's no question on who he should pick or what he's gonna pick. And I think that's a lot more realistic to real life, because whenever I see these this kind of drama happening around me, it's always that one person in the love triangle stands absolutely no chance and is just being dramatic for no reason. And I think it's really funny to put that in a fantasy context, because I think with a really fantastical world, sometimes you have to ground it with kind of like humorous / maybe more grounded tropes in terms of what the character's drama is.
I guess I also just don't like the love triangle because it feels like Eowyn is the one character that sort of like has like a female empowerment thing going on. There are so few women in this movie.
Oh my gosh.
And I feel like it kind of feels like her motivation for being like, I want to be a soldier, I want to fight alongside everybody else. Why can't I be a soldier? Because I'm a woman? I feel like part of her motivation, like the implication, I guess, for me is like, I want to fight beside Aragorn, and like, I don't know, I feel like it would have been better if she wasn't interested in him, honestly. We didn't talk about Gandalf the White.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about that.
Yes,
So
go.
Gandalf the Grey, I think, gives off a cool stoner energy that I don't think Gandalf the White really gives, because I think Gandalf the White has a lot more responsibilities.
Yeah.
But I think Gandalf the Grey, I mean, the whole premise of it is kind of funny. They're just following this mystical stoner into the woods on a quest that could probably kill them, and he's just lighting it up at the most inappropriate moments.
I honestly never thought about that until this watch of how much of a stoner Gandalf was kind of implied to be.
Other people comment on it, like that's how bad it is.
Saruman is like,
Your love of the halfling's leaf has clearly slowed your mind.
Yeah, and also he's known in the Shire for blowing different smoke formations. And I just think it's kind of funny. He's always lighting up at the most inappropriate moments. Like this,
especially in The Hobbit.
This isn't The Hobbit, but a main character dies brutally in front of him, and he's like, "Well, Bilbo, there's not much we can do," and just lights up and just smokes over his dead body. I think it's hilarious.
I think that's definitely true. I don't know how much of that was like made more awkward by the fact that it's a fan edit that kind of made those scenes closer together, maybe.
I don't know. I guess when he got reincarnated, he got less fun.
Don't do drugs.
Well, yeah.
Not when driving.
Not when carrying babies.
Not when operating machinery.
Or operating on people. I think if he wants to be recreational and fun, though, he could go to an extreme extent that people can't. Like, I can't just go up to my friend and be like, you should smoke more. But Gandalf, if I saw him, I'd be like, you should smoke more, because there's no consequence. You'll just respawn.
Maybe he'll get slower in the head, though. Like,
oh, no. That would be really bad.
He's got to be a wise wizard.
That's true. But I feel like also Gandalf is a good kind of smoker, because I don't think he would peer pressure other people into smoking.
He genuinely kind of gives like Big Lebowski vibes in the first movie.
He does.
One more extended cut scene that I forgot to mention was the scene where Faramir warns Sam, Frodo, and Gollum about the spider, and he chokes Gollum. Some people didn't like that scene because Faramir is kind of the nicer of the two in a way, and feels a little inappropriate for him to choke Gollum. Although he's mean to Gollum before, so I don't know. We'll wrap up Two Towers here. I just want to conclude by saying, in comparison to Fellowship of the Rings, I think there's pros and cons to both the theatrical and extended cut. With Fellowship, I feel like either are pretty much perfect. I feel like there's pros to the extended cut, like there's amazing scenes that totally should have been in the theatrical cut. But then there's also scenes that I think kind of mess up pacing or kind of unnecessary. So there's good and bad to both. I want to continue watching the extended cuts because I just like them a little bit more. Alright, Return of the King. So this one got 11 nominations at the Oscars, so 2 less than Fellowship. However, it won every single one, including Best Picture that year. The others were Best Director, Adapted Screenplay, Art Direction, which I didn't even realize was a category. They must have gotten rid of that. Costume design, editing, makeup, original score, original song, Into the West, which I think is just something they sing. I think Aragorn sings or something. I don't know. Sound mixing, and visual effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with those. There's not much to say
I love
there.
this movie. I want it to win all the awards. It makes me happy that it actually did.
My favorite part of the whole franchise is in this movie.
Yes.
And it's when, well, I lovingly call her Erewhon, but it's when Eowyn kills the big guy.
The Witch King.
Yeah.
The main ring wraith.
And he's like...
Fool! No man can kill me.
And she's like,
I am no man.
It's an awesome moment.
It's awesome. It's kind of cheesy, but it's really
so good.
fun. And I just like that a lot. Call me simple if you will, but I think it's fun when I see a girl winning in these movies because it's so...
No, it's a line I'm waiting for every time I watch
waiting.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. I feel like this movie, I'll just say right off the bat, the extended cut is like necessary. Like there's so much, everything that's added is like super important, and I don't understand why they cut like any of it. I guess it just would have been way too long, but like Saruman dies at the start of this movie, and that's only in the extended cut. So if you watch the theatrical cuts, you just don't know what happened to him.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
The actor who played him was really upset about that. That scene was supposed to be at the end of Two Towers, which I think would have been more fitting. Because it's also the last time we see the goth guy
Oh, yeah.
we're talking about. But, yeah, really weird to only have that at the start of this movie's extended cut. In terms of other added scenes, yeah, a lot of it just seems very important. The one moment that doesn't really seem that important, but I do like the addition of it, is the mouth of Sauron, or I think that's what they call him, something like that. And he's like, actually, Frodo is dead, and here's the mithril armor, and lol, he suffered so much. And then they just murder him. Maybe he should have been in the movie like once or twice before that. It was kind of weird to be like, oh, this is Sauron's main guy. That was like our first time seeing him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something was a little odd about that to me. Also, apparently in the books, you're genuinely supposed to think like, oh shit, did Frodo die? Like, is he not going to finish the journey? Where in the movies, you know he's still alive. But actually, like, there's a scene before where we're kind of in question after like the spider wraps him up. Sam, for a second, thinks Frodo is dead. So I feel like there might have been a way to edit the movie in a way where like that scene could have happened right before the scene with the mouth of Sauron. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think what's something cool about this movie is that Sam as a sidekick is completely necessary to the success of the main character.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I feel like in a lot of movies, the main character's sidekick is kind of just there for fun or for emotional introspection.
Comic relief.
Or comic relief or exposition or whatever. But Sam makes a huge difference, and if he wasn't around, I don't think they would have succeeded at all.
He's the hero of the story.
He is the hero of the story.
I mean, like, Frodo literally doesn't succeed. Like, he would have just put on the ring at the end, right? Like, he would have just taken it.
He would have become Gollum.
He would have become Gollum. I mean, he probably would have died with the spider without Sam as well, but, like, the fact that he really, at the end of the movie, fails and is like...
The ring is mine.
Sam totally was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like the fact that Frodo is tricked into dissing Sam. I feel like it's a great conflict, and I feel like I can believe that Frodo would be manipulated by Gollum because he has to be empathetic to Gollum. He has to believe that, like, Gollum could be redeemed, or else that means, like, he might just be obsessed with the ring his entire life and become this, like, horrible little creature. Also, like, the ring is manipulating him as well. I don't know why people complain about that. I don't know why people complain about Frodo being a bad protagonist. I feel like he's, like, perfect for this movie.
Yeah, I think Frodo's kind of a blank slate, but that's sort of what you need for this because the other characters can be dynamic and change him over time. I think a lot of times fantasy protagonists end up being this unmolded little thing of clay at the beginning, and the fun part of the story is seeing them get molded into a person that's not just like a good blank slate. And I think here he's kind of blank, but he does change a lot, and I think that's what's satisfying.
I mean, his ending, I feel like, is super unique to, like, blockbuster films where, you know, he returns home, all the Hobbits do, and they're kind of like grown and traumatized by war and like the way a World War One vet would, of being taken away from this like very simple life and then coming home and being like, damn, we don't really fit in anymore. And I think Frodo is just completely unable to like enjoy it. Sam seemingly is, but like he just has to like go and heal from the whole experience. And I feel like that's such a mature ending to a story in comparison to like most other blockbuster trilogies or whatever. What do you think of the critique that some people have that they could have just used the eagles to get there?
Well, I think objectively they couldn't, because the Eye of Sauron would have seen them.
Yeah. There's also like the magic that Saruman uses. He does like singing in the mountains. That's like why they can't go there.
Yeah.
And he has like birds watching them, and I feel like the whole point of the journey is that Sam and Frodo are like discreet and like no one knows that they're doing what they're doing. So it's stupid.
But I do think I would have liked to see the eagles more. I just don't think they could have been used to stop the whole journey.
I think the idea is that they can't like use them whenever they want. They're not like totally subservient to the characters. Like Gandalf can convince them to come save him when he like is trapped at the top of Saruman's tower, but like he can't use them whenever he wants. Only like when they absolutely need can he like convince them to, hey, save Sam and Frodo from Mordor or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I just love like, as complex as the characters and the story and everything is with the whole journey of these movies, the build up to the one event is like so clear from the start. You understand the stakes pretty well. So it's just sort of so exciting to see it happen. And it's so well built up. And I feel like when it does, it's just, God, that scene is so good. And I like the fact that it wasn't just like, well, everything went well. Like Frodo actually does fail. And it's Gollum's like love for it that, you know, sends him over. He gets to have it for like a second. It was the only way to end it. Perfect trilogy of movies, I'd say, pretty much, other than some like really minor critiques. Definitely think the extended cuts are better. This one is totally essential. I think the theatrical cut is missing so much.
Well, yeah, I think that wraps up Lord of the Rings. We should talk about Hobbit
You didn't
now.
say which one was your favorite.
Oh, my favorite is probably The Two Towers.
Really?
Yeah, actually, well, it's there's moments in Return of the King I like, but I think Two Towers won me over overall because it really gets deep into the world but doesn't feel the need to wrap things up. So that's why I like it.
Alright, Hobbit time.
All right.
I have no notes for The Hobbit. I don't think it won any Oscars. If it did or was nominated, I'll put it right here.
I think my commentary for The Hobbit is going to be rather short.
Yeah.
Because I really didn't appeal to me in the same way. I think the characters, besides Bilbo and Gandalf and maybe some other exceptions, were really two-dimensional to me. I could lump them in all together. And they didn't really stand out the way Legolas or Gimli or other party members stood out.
No, I don't know the names of the dwarves by the end of the movies.
I think in Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship members were really distinct. And I think in the Hobbit movies, the Fellowship members, I really don't care about them. And every time they have some sort of conflict that forces me to care about them, it kind of doesn't. And then I sort of feel stubborn about it, because then I'll see these scenes where it's trying to be emotional, but it's not really working for me, and I'll think, oh, you want me to feel emotional about this? Well, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty negative effect a film can have, which is interesting because the Lord of the Rings ones were so effective, but Hobbit, I think, is just stretching too much content over too long of a time.
I mean, again, we should re-emphasize the fact that we watched a fan edit that cut it down to about 4 hours. But even then, you wouldn't have known the names of the dwarves, even if you watched the extended cuts of all three of these movies. I certainly don't. In terms of comparing the fan edit to the theatrical releases of the films, I've never seen the extended cuts of these movies, but it's noticeably better. It's paced out much better, and they get rid of a lot of content that does not need to be there and is not very good. Like, especially the last movie gets in the territory of like, this is the Lord of the Rings prequel, like we're setting up the Lord of the Rings, it's gonna happen guys, Sauron is coming, and it's just like, it feels pointless. Why not have this just be like a little story about dwarves being messy eaters and hobbits telling riddles to get like rings and get away from spiders and stuff, and then he fights a dragon. Like, that's all this needed to be, and I honestly think it could have been like one movie.
I totally agree. I think it definitely should have been one movie because the book is a lot shorter than Lord of the Rings, but they've tried to produce just as much content. And I think something about prequels that I sort of hold them to a standard of, at least for myself, is they should deepen my understanding of the world that the previous one was set in, but not just keep it surface level. And I know that's a little bit tricky because The Hobbit was written before Lord of the Rings, but I do think that it doesn't really deepen my understanding of the other plot, which I like better. So for me, I kind of think of everything in the context of the world that I like, the Lord of the Rings world. And so I think the Bilbo Baggins world was, Bilbo's kind of compelling, but not as...
I love the casting of Martin Freeman. I think he's great.
I just think he wasn't as interesting to me as Frodo was. And I think in some senses, the dwarfs really brought it down for me because they were so just one entity in my mind. And anytime they had conflict, I just got very bored.
Yeah, honestly, they're pretty boring movies to me. And I was kind of going into the fan edit wondering, like, could you maybe cut this down into a really solid movie? And I think the answer is no. I think there's too much wrong with the story. I feel like the characters are just not compelling, and the story is not compelling in the same way Lord of the Rings is at all.
Smaug is the best part of it for me.
Yeah, the scene where Bilbo is interacting with Smaug is definitely the best scene in the entire trilogy.
And I think Smaug didn't have enough time in the edit that we watched. I would have preferred more Smaug and less everything else.
I don't think they cut out any Smaug. I think they kept it exactly as long as it was in the trilogy. I guess to wrap this up, I mean, there's lots of video essays and stuff on YouTube explaining this, but these movies were very rushed, their production. I mean, Guillermo del Toro was, I think, worked on these for like 2 years, and then they like completely uprooted what he had done and then threw Peter Jackson on the project and then expected him to be done with the first movie in like a year or something. And I think I just would have liked something small scale. I feel like Peter Jackson is kind of upping the ante with everything he creates. Mm-hmm. Like, King Kong is like a 4-hour movie or something. Yeah. Like, he likes to make things big and epic, and I feel like it's gotten kind of more cartoonish as his career has gone on. I kind of mentioned which Hobbit was which. Like, I think I pointed out where the first movie starts and ends, where the second movie starts and ends. Based on what you saw of the 3 movies, do you have opinions on each one, or does it really just feel like one big movie?
It feels like one big movie, and there's like,
which is kind of a compliment to them, actually.
Yeah, and there's good and bad, but I think as a whole, this one just wasn't as effective for me as the other one was.
Do you have a favorite of the 3 based on the fan edit?
Desolation of Smaug.
Just because of the Smaug scene?
Yeah, there's more of him.
I think the first movie is the best if you're going to watch like the theatrical or extended cuts, but watch a fan edit if you're going to watch this. Or just don't watch them, because I don't think I'm going to rewatch this movie or a fan edit or anything related to The Hobbit anytime soon. I think I'll just watch Lord of the Rings and maybe some behind the scenes stuff, because honestly, The Hobbit is just very boring to me. The one thing I just remembered that was very confusing to me is there's a line of dialogue from Gandalf at the very end of the last movie where he's like,
magic rings should not be used lightly, Bilbo. Don't take me for a fool. I know you found one in the goblin tunnels.
That's a really weird thing for Gandalf to say, because then it's like, were you at all suspicious that he had the one ring? Do the other rings make you go invisible as well? Like, and if that's the case, then like, why would Gandalf be all shocked and, you know, like, oh my god, we ought to do something about this when Bilbo uses it to disappear in the beginning of Fellowship of the Rings? It doesn't make sense.
Well, everyone, that was our takes on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Sort of.
Yeah,
The
Hobbit, sort of.
Yeah.
That's my favorite of the 3, The Hobbit, sort of.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a great title. No, I like Desolation. But
also I want to mention the fact that Desolation of Smaug is such a stupid title, because he doesn't do any desolating in the second movie.
Oh, well, I guess I like the third one then. I just like when he desolates.
Really? I like the scene where Bilbo is messing with him.
Oh, I actually do like that too.
That's the best scene, I think, in these movies.
That is a cool scene. But, yeah, I mean, that's
the video.
the video. Bye!